Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to a new video. Today, and probably for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I don't want to say 3 weeks, that's too long. 1 or 2 weeks, we'll put it there, and then it'll still take 3 weeks. We have a big project in the shop, but first I want to show you, we just ran the 4960 through the shop, and I got most of the planning stuff buttoned up in there. Reason why I'm showing you that is because the planter is in the shop at the moment. Just went through an oil change, filter change, all of that good stuff. Door latch came out of alignment during harvest, so I got that fixed. But the big thing is in here. So we got this nice monitor bracket. First of all, this has been in here 2 years now. Really like it. Our in-command 1200, our ag leader monitor goes here. And then what's new is this controller for our infurrow fertilizer that we are currently installing. So this is going to control rate for our infurrow from the cab. It's going to show our pressure here on a digital readout. Very nice. This is new as well. This is a Nylite off of Amazon. Like this company, this is where I get all my LEDs and stuff from. But this is a 3 rocker switch panel, and it's also got USB ports and stuff here. So it's hooked up to key power. If I turn the key on, it lights up and it gives me a volt reading, which is nice too. I can know if I'm got a weak alternator or anything on the tractor and stuff like that, or how my volts are looking, whether I'm taxed and stuff or not. So the way it's set up, this is going to be infurrow. This is the right side 2x2 and the left side 2x2. So when you're in the field, which right now there's a little bug here, you'll see when I turn the switch on, that lights up. That shouldn't be doing that. I gotta take this panel apart because I rewired it once and I gotta figure out why it's lighting up. It stays lit up even with the key off, which is a problem because when I hook the planter up, these come on, and so you cannot get them to shut off even by turning the key off. But we'll figure that out later. Theoretically, this is always on. We get to the end of the field, put the planter down. We just gotta flip these 3 rockers on. You see that light up. And then we need to turn around. We flip them all 3 off. Everything's off. So it's just one fluid motion when you get to the end of the field. You're just flipping that on and off. And you're all good. Now here we are in the shop. Skid steer's in here at the moment. It's been getting pretty cold at night, so we don't leave it outside. The list for the planter as far as hardware goes, we are replacing our disc openers. They were at 14.5 inches. They are actually surprisingly still very sharp, but 14.5 is your measurement to replace. So we got them coming through Shoop. We wanted to go with the wear parts ones, but they were just too expensive for us to justify this time around. So we are going to run Shoop ones again. They're on sale too right now, so that helps a lot. Putting disc openers on, we're putting the furrow jets on. We actually have no gauge wheel bearings out, no gauge wheel arm bushings out. Those are all ready to go back on. Closing wheels are surprisingly all good. Usually there's 2 or 3 bearings that need to be redone. So as far as hardware goes, basically we are just replacing the disc openers. We should be doing parallel arms. The arms themselves are what are showing wear. The bushings are all good in all these, but the arm is starting to oblong out, but we just cannot afford to put money into parallel arms this year. We are going to try and start tackling that, doing either a couple rows a year or doing half the plan or something like that. But we're mounting a tank, obviously going to infurrow. All 6 of these tanks are 2x2. That gives us 420 gallons, I think, at 2x2 capacity. So we fill every 18 to 20 acres, something like that. Usually we're putting 25 gallons down. We may cut that back a little bit and supplement more at side dress this year, but we'll see. Don't know exactly what the plan is yet. But up here, we're on the back frame of the planter. I'm gonna stand on this row unit so that you guys can see me fall. We're gonna come off right there, right behind that T with a pillar measured for this. I think we're doing a 3x3 steel tube coming straight up and with a plate and a U-bolt so it's removable. And then right here another pillar coming up, plate, U-bolt, same deal. We're gonna bring it up about lid height with this tank. Have the same tubing come across, and we're gonna gusset it on both sides so that it's stiff, and then we can set our tank saddles up here. In the future, if we see this program taking off, if we see a good return on infurrow, we will add a second tank on that side, giving us a total of 240 gallons of infurrow, which is a lot, but it's good. So that's the plan there. Figured out that valve cracked out over the winter time, so we have to replace that. I have one coming through Deere. We're just going to gut the new one and replace the top half of the valve, because taking that valve off requires taking all of that apart, taking this tank off, a whole 9 yards I don't feel like covering, so we're just going to do the top half. That's all that's wrong with it. This is the plan as of now, and that is to mount the the infurrow pump. It's that one right there. That's a 7 gallon per minute. For this planter, we only need 5. Well, we only need 3. We were gonna go with 5 to be safe, and then our fertilizer guy only had 7, so he gave us a 7 for the price of a 5. We're gonna mount that right here. I'm gonna create a little riser so I don't have to reroute lines and stuff, and mount it there. So we'll have a 3/4 inch line running around this way and up into the bottom of the tank, and then that 3/4 inch line is gonna run around to in front of this tank where we are mounting our manifold. Got some progress to show you guys on the planter. You can see here we have our manifold mounted, and give you guys a closer look. Simple frame, and I originally just had this the cross and this piece coming back, and it was just way too flimsy. Found this piece of rod that was already bent. It contoured back to the tank perfectly, and so I just had to weld it to the back there and then cut it off. So works good, nice and solid, not going anywhere. All our manifold is going to be right here in the middle of the planter, and instead of the 2x2 being split 6 and 6. And then you can also tell that the lines have already been ran. I just got done with them. We are taking that roll of 1/4 inch back to my ag leader dealer the end of the week. We are heading off to a 2-day agronomy conference, so when we get back, we are running down there. The meters are done, the brackets for our furrow jets are in, and I gotta go get a fitting for this pressure gauge there. So anyway, manifold's mounted, 3/4 inch hose running around, and that gets a little tight there. We may have to do something. It goes around this way because the pivot hinge point is right here. So it comes this side of the hinge point back around the hydraulic box here, and then to the pump, which is also mounted right here. So once we get the tank mounted, we will have to plumb from here back to the screen and then up to the tank. I got some wiring here, bare wiring. I got to run the motor, the pump wiring that runs, it'll run that way through this black tube, through that black tube, up to the tractor. Probably can get that done today yet. I'll show you guys what it looks like on the back. This is what the row unit looks like. It's following exactly where the 3/8 2x2 line runs along the side here. All the driving for the meters happens on this side, so there's no hindrance being over here. And it runs down. We got a 5-pound check valve right here, right next to the one that we have for the 2x2. So they're both easily accessible right there. And then it runs down through this hole. It comes out right where this bolt is. There's a hole back in there, and it comes out right here. So once we get the furrow jets mounted, they'll be somewhere around in this area. And we just gotta cut the hose to length, put it on the furrow jet, and the plumbing is complete. And in not very much time at all, I got everything tore down, got the harnesses laid out. Few things to note. We got this ran all the way over here. I'm hoping that's the right color pattern. Usually when you have alternate colors, white is hot, green's ground. And so I'm hoping I'm right on that one. So that runs along there, takes a turn here. That's this harness running up to the front. Now I am a little worried that it's not enough wire. Now you may be wondering why it's the same length as everything else sitting here. Well, that's because this harness has to run, well, this harness and the next one I'm about to show you have to run all the way up into the cab and hook up directly to that little motor controller with the dial on it. I don't think this is going to be enough. So I think I'm going to plan on ordering a extension harness right off the bat for this, because yeah, the tractor's, the back window's not even going to be till right in there probably, so that leaves a foot to get to the box. So we need probably a 6-foot harness if they make a 6-foot, otherwise we'll have to buy a 15 and just coil it up behind the seat. Now the other harness, this one, is what they call the pressure transducer. It's this end here. I think I showed you guys this already, but it's just a little thing. It's got a 1/4-inch hose bib on it, so I'm got 1/4-inch rubber line coming so that I can put a little light duty clamp on this to keep it from popping off. And then that hooks up to the port right there in the middle of the manifold. I have 10 feet of that 1/4-inch hose coming, so theoretically this can sit all the way back here, or even farther, but I'd like to keep it accessible, so it's going to stay outside the tube here, and that's going to run 1/4-inch up to there. Another day of work on the planter. Got a shipment in, got 4 chute boxes, which are disc openers and most of the roller chains. We bought all the row unit chains through chute, as well as the drive wheel chains, the chains that are inside the seed transmission, the population box. We are going to get 2 10-foot rolls of 40 weight chain, and that'll be enough to do those. We have been cruising through. We got this whole pallet of stuff here, some chute boxes, farm chem boxes, some stuff, precision, the brackets for the ferro jets. All our meters are in this crate. So we've been blowing through. We're almost halfway done reassembling row units. I'll show you guys. I'm starting on the next row now. So I take my ferro jet here and I just make sure it's in its lowest setting, which is way harder to do when it's off the planer. But lowest setting, there we go. And we walk around to the back of the planter. You can see them on these units there. You can see it right there. They're fairly low profile, actually. I'm pleasantly surprised. They don't stick down as far as the old Keatons did. This is the bracket that you mount. You mount this front from here forward. That is just a regular run-of-the-mill Keaton bracket for a regular seed firmer. And then for the furrow jets, you add this bracket back here. So you take the first bolt off, your lead bolt on the closing wheel tail, and then it bolts on there, makes it all nice and sturdy, not going anywhere. And then we take our furrow jet, and it sticks up through this a hole, just like that. Get it up through the top there, and then you just push up. She snaps in, and there she is. It's on a hinge, so it can swing back and forth. That seed firmer's kind of spent, it looks like. Maybe it's all right. It might be all right, but it doesn't come off unless you try to take it off. That's the on-off thing up there. So see, just like that, push it back on again. You can raise these out of the ground. You pull them up and then put this pin in one of these holes down there, but I don't think we are going to be putting them up. I think we're going to have infurrow fertilizer on every single acre this year. Since our fertilizer lines are ran, what I do now is I route it through the little fertilizer tube management hole thingy-mabobber there. I run it through that, and then we bring it down with the furrow jet in its lowest position. I make sure there's nothing hindering the line, and we bring it down. It's going in that first hole on the furrow jet, and we will cut it about right there and then stick it into that fitting. In order to not mix anything up, our starter fertilizer is running through this hose, which is 1.5 inches if I remember right. All our 2x2 runs through 2-inch. So we won't get mixed up, and because infurrow fertilizer and 2x2 fertilizer, if it mixes, it instantly becomes the consistency of cottage cheese, and that is not what you want inside your planter system, because that would be really bad. So our nurse setup, our main nurse tank is going to be 28 for the 2x2. It's got its own pump, and then the infurrow is going to be a tote on the back of the truck with its own separate pump to fill the second system on. Dad just left for the night. I'm about to head up to the house. We got 6 units where we have furrow jets mounted. We got the new openers put on, and we have the gauge wheels reset. So tomorrow we got these 6 to put back on. I have 2 units, 2 meters installed. So that means I've changed the drive chain out for the unit, and then put the meters on the boxes. Switched them over to beans because we plant beans first. And then what I did was I dumped, before I fully installed the box onto the planter, I dumped about 1/4 of a cup of this 80/20 talc graphite down into the meter and spun it really fast just to try and get that pre-lubricated. Otherwise you may run into issues in the first couple acres of planting with really bad singulation and stuff, but I've never noticed too much. But just kind of pre-charging those meters with talc graphite, and then hopefully they'll be good to go from the start. I've only gotten a good couple hours in today. I've been driving around all over the place getting parts and stuff like that, but we have gotten the first 6 units on this side completely done. As of now, we shouldn't have to touch anything on this side. Now that I said that, I had just remembered I'm waiting on some farm chem fittings for those. I had to rob that for side dress, but they will be coming shortly. Everything else on these 6 rows are completely done. We have new chains, meters are mounted, boxes are on, new chains in the gearbox here, and new chains on both drive wheels. We had to replace the tensioner sprocket on this one. The bearing started wobbling pretty bad, and it was cricked in like that, so I'm pretty sure if we would have ran it too long, it would have started throwing that chain. Took a crescent wrench, straightened the bracket out so that that chain runs straight. Other than that, everything's good. I even greased this side up already, so now we can continue on mounting furrow jets on this side. I've been working through the afternoon on the planter, and all the furrow jets are completely mounted. I had to reassemble one because I took it apart. It had a bad manifold, and so this one is the new style, which is like a push-on hose barb. It really sucks, and also since it's this style manifold, you can actually run a different product through every port on the furrow jet. So one side of the wing can be one product, the other side of the wing can be another product, and then you can have a third product coming out in the middle. We have no use for that, so I went up 2 lines up to here. It's got a T, and then it runs up. We'll see if that works. We may have to swap that out for like a even distribution T like this one is, but we'll see. If we run into issues, we run into issues. So anyway, those are all mounted. You can get a better look at how that sits in there. One thing I forgot, and I've noticed here, the last 2 years we've been running this planter with this left half, the closing wheels offset. There's 2 different holes, and that side is just straight in the front hole. Well, what we were going to do, I was going to straighten these wheels out anyway on this side. I don't see a benefit to running them offset. Haven't for the last 2 years. We're going to bump them all to the back hole, because when this furrow jet swings, I don't think it's ever going to really swing, but it does, and the closing wheel can smack it. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into play here. 1, the furrow jet's got to be all the way over, and 2, once the planter is in the ground, these closing wheels come back. So it's going to be a super rare chance that that actually hits it, but just in case, this half of the planter is getting moved back. That way, if we do run into an issue and we end up having to change the other half, it's only 6 rows. It won't take as long. We just got to start putting discs on this side, but we started mocking up the plans for the tank mount. We've been searching all over the place around the farmyard trying to see if we have any scrap steel laying around to use. Turns out we really don't. I think that's all for today. So we're gonna pack up, go home, and then we'll see you guys tomorrow, maybe? Maybe. Just tidying up some odd and end stuff on the planter this morning while I wait for Dad. We're supposed to be running to our local-ish metal shop and getting tubing to build our tank stand. So while I'm waiting, I extended the power harness for the fertilizer pump. So now we have almost 15 feet of harness off the back of the planter, because this has to run all the way up into the cab. I want to make sure we have enough, not just for this year, but in the future, if we have a different tractor or end up having to route cables different, I want to have enough. So we got 15 feet to go up into the cab, and you can see I just spliced wires and extended. Reason being, if you go on, I got this stuff through agsprayerparts.com. You gotta be specific, ag sprayer, because there is also an agsprayparts.com. But this is through sprayer, might be sprayer parts warehouse also. I think parts warehouse is all in it, but anyway, if you got the identical harness to what is from here to the end with the plugs on the end, that's $64 plus $22 in shipping. You can do the math on that. I was not paying that much for a harness. I got two 100-foot rolls of 12 gauge wire, one black, one red, for 22 bucks. And the butt connectors are like fractions of pennies each. So that is how I did that. And I also have the same stuff coming for this. I had to confirm that there wasn't anything special about the wire in this one. So I have 16 gauge wire coming, which I think is quite a bit bigger than what's actually on that. I couldn't figure that out exactly, but it's gonna work. I'll make it work if it doesn't. But anyway, just gonna cover, as far as this will go, back up on both ends, and then I think I'm just gonna coil this in tape. I am gonna order that coil stuff for the little wire, because that can rub on stuff and break pretty easily, but this is pretty resilient to most stuff. All the units are on except for one. We're waiting on a dinky little 50-cent nut from John Deere for the opener blade on this side. The first one I put on at the far end, I stripped the nut out on. And so I had to order a nut, and we just pushed it all the way down to this end. So that, it's in at the dealership, but we're waiting for it to come to the shed pickup, because I have other parts sitting in our local shed pickup already. And I didn't want to drive 35 miles round trip for a 50-cent nut to go all the way down to the dealer. So we're waiting on that. You can also see there pretty well that furrow jet bracket and how the furrow jets sit in there. And I think I told you guys before that we're moving these closing wheels back. We are back. We are back from getting steel. We carried in this piece. I don't remember where we got this, but it's just a giant piece of fifth wheel plate off a semi, and she's thick. So we're going to use this as our base plate that the U-bolt clamps or bolts down on. But over here we have 5 8-foot sticks of 2-inch square tube that is 1/4-inch thickness. So that is what we're going to use for the entire of the thing. So I believe the kit that I am mocking this after is around $3 grand to buy if you were to just buy an already made kit to bolt onto the planter. That is $270 worth of steel plus whatever that would be, but we were looking at flat stock pieces there. You could easily get another 25 bucks probably into flat stock, and that'd be it. But and then obviously we'll be using some welding rod and all that, but it's gonna be like 310 bucks we have into this tank mount. And I'm trying to make it to where it can be replicated, because I want it to look nice when we add a second tank. I ended up bringing in an I-beam and cutting the middle section out of it. It's not quite as thick as this fifth wheel plate, but the plasma cutter just did not want to touch this at all. There's my template for what I was going to cut out. But the plasma cutter did not like that stuff. It struggled a little bit at first here, And once we blew through it, it cut just fine. So we got one piece sitting there. Did a pretty good job. They look pretty square. Chops all smoked up. Here's the other piece. So now we just gotta take the grinder. This slag comes off really easily. You could almost do it with a hammer and chisel. I'd almost guarantee it. But that's what I really like about the plasma cutter is lower slag, but the slag comes off easy. And they take a 3/4 inch drill bit. 3/4 inch. This is what the bolt is. So. There we go. See how easy that slag comes off? It's basically just sitting on it, so it's all cleaned up, and you can see that cut. That is a really nice cut on off of a plasma cutter. Nice and straight. As long as you got a straight guide to go off of, which I'd like to get a real guide for it, or make one that's like two really strong magnets that just snap down, and then you got a rail to run across. But I was just using that piece that you see there and using this 90-degree magnet to hold it, which honestly I should just get a couple more of them. Those pieces of flat stock are done. I got my first tower up here. I'm trying to make sure that 30 inches is enough as far as height goes. So this is where that post ends up. You can see we got one band there, U-bolted, and then another one there, U-bolted. So this one is the one that's worrying about height because we want to keep above this cap or away from it. So the length of the top is going to be 22 inches. So we can go 8 inches and leave room on the side of that cap. Not a lot of room, but room. You can still take it on and off, which we never have. We never plan on needing to take the lid off of that tank, but you never know. So we're at 8 inches there. We got 10, 12 inches off the back. So that's not bad. That's pretty close to center, and I think that'll work. I really don't want to make this much higher because I do need to get to the top of this tank that we have. So we're going to be pretty close to just over the head. If I show you, we're going to be pretty close to dumping jugs like this into the top of the tank. So I don't really want to go much higher. Otherwise I'll have to start carrying a ladder or something with me when I tend fertilizer, which would not be the most ideal. Bolt's right there, so it's almost up against the bolt. We're going to have a gusset on this side coming down. So that should keep the flex of that pull forward and backwards good. And then we're going to have the beam coming back and then this way. And so we will have a big gusset running diagonal up like that. I think it'll be good enough. I don't know if I'll have room for a little gusset, a baby gusset right here. So we will do that just to help keep that flex under control. But honestly, I think that's enough. I don't think we need more height. It's close to the tank, but not too close. And we're keeping our profile down because we do have overhanging limbs too that we got to deal with going in and out of fields. Those row markers take a beating going in and out of fields, so we will keep them as low profile as possible. So anyway, with that, we will put another piece of this tube on the chop saw and get another 30-inch stick, and then we can bring everything down here. I know measurements. I know I can fit 30-inch spacing there. So now that I know all my measurements, I can take everything off, bring it out here, start tacking stuff together, get more stuff cutting and tacking. That's what we're going to be doing for the next couple hours. Here's a quick update. It's been a couple hours. Got the main legs done. That's what they look like. So these are what sit off of the frame. And those are going to sit like I showed you guys earlier. And then the top is done now. Already drilled out for the tank and gusseted on all the corners. So the next step will be to weld the legs to the top frame. So this is going to go on. I got to mark it at 8 inches from there in, and then weld it, tack it on at the 8-inch mark. And then I think I can do a 1-inch gusset on this side, and then we're going to use actual tube and gusset it from up here all the way out to around the outside there. Actually, what we're going to do next is we're going to take the leg, measure 15 inches up. That'll be halfway up, and then put our horizontal cross member in, which is this piece, 28 inches, so that we keep our 30 on center. So we'll put it on like that, and then I think that'll make it a little easier to wrestle that top piece and get it on top. We'll see what kind of structural integrity this gives it. We may gusset the bottom. I don't really see a need to gusset both sides, but we'll at least do the bottom, and that way she doesn't shift this direction on the planter and cause a bunch of problems. It's almost 8 o'clock p.m. We just finished the fabrication work. Just got it wiped down, blowed off, and so now we can paint. Well, guess what? Somehow my math was completely off. I have that'd be 16 feet of products left. Somehow. Don't know how that happened. But here we are. I even got it balanced somehow. Don't know how that happened. But this is the back. This is the front. So if you rotate it about that much, that's how it'll be sitting on the planter. So now we just got to paint her black. Let it set overnight, and then we can mount it in the morning. Call it good. Painting's done. 2 coats of paint, 2 coats of paint, and 2 coats of clear. I took 3 different brands of paint to paint it because I had the cheap $3.99 can of paint. I had the $6.99 can of paint, and I have no idea where this paint came from. It was probably $8.99 from the local parts store. But anyway, that's done, and I'm happy about it because I can go in and eat dinner and go to bed. See you guys in the morning. Good morning. It is a rainy, gloomy day outside, but look at who has been busy this morning. That's right. We got our tank on. Looks good. It'll look even better in a couple years when there's a matching one over there. But that is it right there. 120 gallons added to the planter just like that. Yep, so you can see that bracing coming in. We'll see when it's loaded. A modification next year, or if it doesn't make it through the season, would be adding a gusset from here down to that beam up front with another U-clamp up there. Well, actually, no, I can't do that because that is the folding frame. Never mind, scratch that. There are no upgrades we can or cannot possibly do in the season. So what we got is what we get. We have 1.25 inch outlet on this tank, so I have to take this one out. I need some channel locks to do that. Take that out, Teflon it, and then I have the plumbing to go in the top of this somewhere. It's right here. Yep, right here. So this is what we got, and along with this over here, I got a banjo valve. So we want banjo valve on the bottom, I think. We'll see when we get it over there and see what the everything looks like, but I'm pretty sure we want it here. This is our manifold tip, I guess is what you would call it, that's going on the bottom of the tank. Valve is going to the screen and then to the pump, and then this hose here. Let's see what this looks like once we get it screwed on. Good morning, everybody. We are on to another day of working on the planter. Well, I just finished working on the planter. We have one thing left to do, and I am waiting. Well, we have technically two things left to do with the same thing, and we are waiting on a shipment from Barn Door Ag. Should be here within a day or two. So it's our orifices for the top of the manifold there, as well as the fittings to tie in the pressure transducer. That is all we have left to do on this planter. I just got done extending the harnesses. For anybody wondering, because I could not find the information anywhere online, I finally got somebody to admit it on Facebook that the pressure transducer does not use any sort of special wire. I used 16 gauge because I was trying to guess what size it is. It's more like 20 or 22. So if you guys are buying wire, I was able to make it work, but it's like 20 or 22 gauge wire running through for these right there. So that's it. That's as far as this one needs to go, because I have about 8 feet on the back of the tractor. And then this power cable obviously is just regular wire, and that's 12 gauge. So keep that in mind. Found a good place on Amazon you can get it. I got 2 rolls of 100 feet of 12 gauge for 20 bucks, black and red, and then I got a 4-pack of 100-foot rolls of 16 gauge for $24. So pretty good deals, I think, just by the fact that that power extension harness was going to be almost 100 bucks if you just ordered a 15-foot harness through the place I got everything. And here on the back, I didn't show you guys this yesterday. We got all the plumbing done, so it changed a little bit, but we got our main fill for the infurrow here. We're still running 2-inch cam locks on everything. I don't know if I mentioned that. The actual physical hose is smaller. It's inch and a half, but the cam locks are all still going to be 2-inch because that is just what we use everywhere around here. So that's what we have. If something goes wrong with this cam lock, we don't have to go buy one. We have one in the drawer. So that's just the way we did it. And then we changed around the T a little bit. It comes down and does this little loop here into the screen. Screen is drainable. It's not going to go all over everything. We can have a cup or something underneath it. So on-off valve for the pump right here. Nice, easy to get to. The 3/4 inch hose runs down around here to the pump, and then the pump, I think I showed you guys, runs around that manifold in the front. So just waiting on those parts, and then this will be done. We're gonna dual up the 4960 probably today. It looks like a pretty nice day out, and get that ready to hook onto this. And then once it's hooked up, it's gonna stay hooked up until spring. Long-term forecasts look really good. We could be putting some beans in, I want to say around the 7th to 8th of April, which will be 2 or 3 weeks ahead of schedule on even our earliest planted dates in the past. So we'll see what it looks like. I'm not going to be in a big hurry. I want to be patient and wait for the right ground conditions. But if we have the right ground conditions, I do want to try some. Once the 4960 is done, my disc vine is going to go in the shop, as well as the sprayer. And then while those are in the shop, we're going to be getting the duals put back on the 8430, getting the chisel plow put on that, because if we have possible planting conditions in 3 weeks, that means we have possible chisel plow conditions in like 1 to 2 weeks. So we want to have that ready to go. We have around 85 acres to chisel plow this spring, so we're gonna get them done as soon as possible so we can have that chisel plow tucked away and have the secondary tillage rig hooked up, our disc and the crumbler. So anyway, with that, I am gonna wrap this video up. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.